Hey, everybody. Welcome to Fly Nubian Money. Happy Thursday. This is where we help you to master your mindset and maximize your what? Your money, y'all. And today we are going to talk about how the healthcare system, this is really serious. I need you to go get your friends because we are talking about how the healthcare system profits when people are sick. From insurance companies to hospitals to pharmaceutical companies, these are the financial incentives built into the system that don't always prioritize prevention. This conversation is about money, access, pricing, and what it means when healthcare becomes a business. We're also discussing how Black families are impacted, what questions people should be asking, and how to protect yourself financially when it comes to medical care. So we absolutely have the right people that are going to be having this discussion today, y'all. I don't know if you see the lady to my right or my left, I'm not sure, but this is Miss Dominique Morgan. She is a registered nurse and a realtor, so I'm sure she has some things to contribute. Then we also have Miss Renee Williams. She is a clinical research strategist. And last but certainly not least, the wealth architect herself, Miss Aisha Verze. What's happening, y'all? What's up, ladies? This is a real good conversation because what we know to be true, and I don't know if these statistics are here, but what we know to be true is that when Black people go to Black doctors, they live longer. There is biases in the healthcare. And then you compound that with the pharmaceutical industry and all the things that the profiteering of capitalism. We talked yesterday about capitalism. Is it good? Is it bad? Is it worth it? Should we, what's the alternative? But a lot of times, one of the things that Dr. Felice said is capitalism is great because I want to make money. However, it turns bad when it turns to greed. And these pharmaceutical companies being having more control and having this lobbying power with the powers that be, it's caused quite a bit of corruption, and people prioritize profits over health. And that's kind of what we see. So I just want to get your opinion, especially with the ladies who are in the medical field. And I'll start with you, Miss Dominique. In 60 seconds, what has been your experience just in dealing in the medical profession with this certain thing, with the profit over health in the medical field?
So my experience is that the medical field is a business. It's not healthcare, it's sick care. It does not pay them to heal you. Mm-hmm. So they basically use medication to mask symptoms. So it's a business overall. It's not healthcare.
Yeah. What about you, Miss Renee? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, what I've noticed that from a clinical research point, they're always looking for what is the maximum amount of money we can charge and what type of indication that will help us drive that. So definitely a business.
Yeah, that's true. What about you, Aisha? What's been your experience?
Yeah, for me personally, I think it is money over really doing what is right. Sometimes you can just feel it, because why would you charge people so much just to see them? It doesn't make any sense. But capitalist country, that's what it is. They want to make money, maximize as much as possible.
Capitalism. Shout out to Deborah Will Win. She said healthcare is not into healing us at all. Where you at, Deborah Will Win? Deborah went from being a chat member, an audience member. Now she's one of our producers. I don't see you back there though, Ms. Deborah. But I can agree with all of you. I do on Thursdays, typically I have Dr. Jones, who is a family physician, and we talk about health all the time and how it affects us as Black people. And one of the things that she says is doctors are incentivized to give you medication. They are incentivized to keep you hooked on medication, and they get bonuses, or the hospitals get bonuses if how much medicine that they can sell. So instead of telling you what you can do to prevent, which is what the things that you put in your mouth and in your body, they just give you more and more medicines because they want to keep you sick. They don't want to heal you. They want to keep you sick, which is very interesting. So I want to go to our first video, and I want to dig a little bit deeper into this topic.
Or control a health insurance division? Raise your hand. Please keep your hand up if you also employ healthcare providers, or own clinics, specialty pharmacies, or any other kind of medical practice or pharmacy. Please keep your hand up if you also own or control a pharmacy benefit manager. And please keep your hand up if you lead a publicly traded company at which you have a legal responsibility to maximize shareholder value. So we've established on the record that the largest health insurance companies are not just insurers. They are also medical providers and pharmacies, diagnosing and deciding treatment for patients. They are also PBMs, another form of middlemen managing drug benefits. They are increasingly controlling every aspect of our healthcare system.
That clip matters because what you just watched is the quiet part being admitted out loud. The biggest health insurance companies in America are not just insurance companies. They employ doctors. They own clinics. They own pharmacies. They control pharmacy benefit managers, the middlemen who decide which drugs you're allowed to get and how much you will pay for them. So let's stop being polite and using proper language to call this something that it's not. This is not insurance. This is a well-coordinated scam hiding in plain sight because the same corporations that decide whether your care is approved are also diagnosing you, deciding your treatment, dispensing your medication, and profiting at every step along the way. That is not oversight. That is total control, control of care, pricing, outcomes. And here's the part that makes this so dangerous. These companies are publicly traded, which means that their executives have a legal obligation to maximize shareholder profits. Your health is not the priority. Your doctor's judgment is not how things are decided. It is all about profits.
Incog 46454 hit it on the head. They said curing you will kill the pharmaceutical business. They need to sustain your illness to sustain profits. Whoo. So what do you think, Aisha? What's your thoughts about that video that you just watched?
Yeah, I saw that video last week and I was in awe. And I think the biggest part is they circulate the money amongst themselves over and over again because they understand how the system works. So they're in one industry, but because they know that if they can now tap another industry, they can still make money, profit from that industry. So they find a way to make a web and then just keep getting the money back over and over again, literally circulating the profit within themselves and finding a way to even make more profit without thinking about the people that they're affecting. I was in awe, and just listening again does make me like, wow, this is insane. But it's true. That's what happens. They know each other. They call each other up. What do you think? Well, let's create a network of doctors to do this ABCD, and let's connect with the pharmaceutical chain and do ABCDE. We give them the drugs. They prescribe the drugs. They work together.
Renee, how long would you say that this has been happening? In your professional opinion, is this something that's new or it's been happening for a long time?
This has been happening since the 1800s. It's an ongoing, this is a systemic situation. I was just getting ready to say that for, you have 3 phases, well, actually 4 phases in clinical trials and up to phase 1, 2, and 3. 3 is where you can actually mass produce once you get approved by the FDA for the drugs. So it takes it costs about maybe $100 to $300 million to get the drug approved in phase 3. So, and then once you get the drug out of that drug, you may have like 1 drug out of 5,000 attempts, and that company have to recoup from the money that they lost trying to put other drugs in the pipeline that did not get approved by FDA. So there's a cycle of viciousness that continues to go on.
Yeah. So Dominique, you work in nursing. Would you say that you've ever felt pressure to drug people?
So not necessarily pressure, but you have to think about the pharmaceutical companies. So you have pharmaceutical reps that go into doctors' offices, that sit in doctors' offices, that give them, take them to fancy dinners and put them on their boats and bring them treats to push their medications. So when you think about that, the highest person that's sending money or spending money is the medication that you may be more likely to push. Even when you think about back in the day when people were getting addicted to opioids, because of the money that was attached to it, the doctors was pushing it out because they're making money. So it's not a push because as a registered nurse, like we're limited, we give what's prescribed, right? But those pharmaceutical reps, which most of them make more money than the people that are actually providing care, on top of the bonuses and everything else that they make, they're pushing these medications. They're sitting in these doctors' offices. They're taking these doctors out for fancy, dinners and on their boats and whatever it is to get them to use their medication. So I've witnessed that.
That's crazy. And and the fact that there's no regulation around that, in real estate, back before the big real estate crash, title companies used to take us out on trips in limousines to fancy restaurants. And after the crash happened, they shut all that shit down. They can't do anything. There's this regulation Z, I believe it is, that they cannot do none of that. You can't even have the appearance of impropriety. And so this is just for real estate. Right. But you mean to tell me this is our life and death, our health, and doctors are being able to be wooed by pharmaceutical companies to keep us drugged?
Yeah.
That is insane.
Let's think about this. Let's think about this too. When you're thinking about cancer, right? Mm-hmm. Cancer is cancer treatment is a multi-billion-dollar business. Yeah. Why would they cure that? Why would they find and I'm sure there's cures out there, but why would they mass produce a cure that's going to decrease money? It's greed. Right. It's just people wanting to make more and more and more, and it's not regulated.
Do you guys believe, Aisha, do you believe the conspiracy that that all the people who have found the cure for cancer have been knocked off?
I think that's hard to say, right? Because
Dr. Sabi.
It's hard to say, but I love what Renee was talking about, because now I have a little bit insight when she talked about all the stages of research to get medicine to be approved and all the money that they have to spend. So now you can see where they're trying to recoup their money back. I can now I see where they're so desperate to do that, and they do anything they can to recoup the money that they put in their business first. So, even though it's not right, because these are people's lives you're talking about, right? But people who feel like they have to make money, they have to still get the money back that they put in the business. And, sometimes it's kind of hard to say something, because, okay, if you don't have a cure for a particular disease, or somebody has it and they're hiding it, or they want to keep making people sicker or not giving them the right cure, like, what is the benefit really? What kind of a soul do you have if you take out someone because they have the cure, but you want to keep making money? It's almost like blood money when you do something like that.
Blood money.
Yeah, but I can see now, based on what she just said about the want to recoup their money back, why they now partner with other people so they can get that money that they put in, that they maybe invested to create the drugs or the testing, whatever it is. And then it looks, it looks bad at the end of the day, because now you're not providing care. You're not just trying to get your money back.
Right. And that's what it's one word, y'all. What's that one word? What's the one word? I want you guys to say really quick. Before you go, Renee, what's the one word? What's the key word here?
Greed.
It's greed.
Money?
Greed.
Greed and money.
About money. Yeah.
Greed. Because it's one thing, and I'm gonna let you know, it's one thing, like Dr. Felice said yesterday, capitalism works when it works, right? So it's an opportunity for us all to get. We could all have this amount of abundance. When it gets messed up is when you have greed. When you have greed, it just fucks everything up. And now people have to suffer. And so we see this gap widening where you have all these billionaires and trillionaires. It's like, how much money can you have? How much money can you spend? Really? And then What about the poor people that are getting ready to not have nothing? Who gonna be buying your products and services if the poor people can't buy it? But they can't even see past that because they're so caught up with this what? Greed. Renee, what was you gonna say?
And I just wanted to give another perspective in monitoring clinical drug trials. And I was on cancer trials, oncology foremost. One pill is a house. You can buy a house, not a house note. You can buy the house or you can buy the Porsche. One pill. So, yeah, they need to get that money back.
Money back.
That is crazy. So let's take a look at this next video.
Health insurance companies are getting in the news lately. I figured I'd dissect this industry and show you guys how these companies actually make their money. So let's start off with the pharmaceutical companies who actually make the drugs. They get their drugs to the local pharmacy where you and I go in and pick up our medication through an entity called pharmacy benefit managers. So pharmacy benefit managers act like wholesalers almost. They place the drugs from these pharmaceutical companies into these pharmacies. And for that, they receive typically a 30% commission. In other words, whatever the cost of the drug is that is being purchased by the patient, 30% of that goes back to these pharmacy benefit managers. Throughout the years, the health insurance companies became very smart. So in order to gobble up that money, they purchased all the pharmacy benefit managers that are out there. And so now all of these pharmacy benefit managers are owned by these health insurance companies, including United Healthcare. So therefore, that 30% is now going back to the health insurance companies. This new revenue represents about 60%. Yes, the number is correct. 60% of the total revenue that these health insurance companies are making these days. If you thought that these insurance companies are making a lot of their money or all of their money from the monthly payments that you and I are sending to them, you're right, but you're wrong, because majority of it comes from another source. So now let's talk about the case that everybody has noticed, and that is that you go and try to get a medication that was prescribed by your doctor, but the insurance company denies that medication. So the reason they deny it is not because that medication is bad or for some reason it's just not good for you, but it's because that medication or that company is not paying enough or nothing to the health insurance companies. In other words, their commission or whatever that rate is that they usually pay is less than 30% or it's nothing at all. For that reason, they recommend you or refer you to another medication in order to keep their revenue coming. When it comes to surgeries, health insurance companies hate them. They prefer you to be on medication, which basically treats a problem. Surgeries cure a problem. Surgeries cost the health insurance companies money. Medications make them money. So they much rather you be on medication than get a surgery. In fact, United Healthcare last year denied 37% of the surgeries that came in. And they do that because majority of people, in fact, 90% of people never claim anything against that denial. They just put their head down, they go back to the doctor and say, my surgery was denied, what can I do? And the doctor is going to say, well, take this medication and it's going to treat it for now. The pressure that the health insurance companies have put on these primary care physicians has turned these primary care physicians into licensed drug dealers. They much rather them write a prescription than work with a patient, diagnose an issue early on and treat it before that disease comes about. Think about diabetes. If that doctor early on can tell a patient, you're gaining weight, you need to take care of this before it turns into diabetes, then that patient can.
You know, grown folks' perspective said that key word right there, wickedness. It's wickedness. Greed is wicked. And you think about these companies, think about a supply chain. What happens in the supply chain when products or services are being shipped over? These companies are in every part of the supply chain. So whether they don't get money on the insurance, they're going to get money on this end. They're going to get money on that end. So why not just work with the people? Because they're going to make money regardless. It's crazy.
Crazy.
So when you think about, Aisha, when you think about things like diabetes, because here's the thing historically for Black people, you know, we get, well, I don't know if you know, because I know you Black, but I don't know if you know about the sugar. We get this thing called the sugar, and it's diabetes, right? And what a lot of people don't know is it's curable. A lot of people don't know that. I was talking to my girlfriend the other day, and this one of her family members died. She didn't know that it's curable. Like all you gotta do is change your diet.
Mm-hmm.
Why do you think a lot of people don't even understand? And I'm not talking about type 1, I'm talking about type 2.
Mm-hmm.
Why do you think people don't really just have that common information that this shit can be reversed?
Can be reversed. Yes. You know what? I think sometimes we have to also take ownership of our own health and well-being. Because at the end of the day, who really is the master of your life? It's you. And if you are not feeling well or something is not right and you go to a doctor, even if they give you a prescription or say something to you, you go back and double check, well, what do I need to do on my own to correct this issue? But I think a lot of time, people also just want a pill. Give me a pill that will solve this problem. I don't want to think about it. I don't want to worry about it. Just give me a pill. I can say for myself, being at home for a while, and the doctor told me, I went to see my doctor for my physical and said, you know what? We did your blood work. I think that's why I say, you know what? Sometimes we might go one end or the other end. He did tell me, he said, you know what, Aisha, I think we have to start cutting back on carbs because I think you're kind of borderline. So I need to start exercising and going for walks. He literally told me that. He said, because I don't want you to start taking medication just because.
Was your what nationality was your doctor?
He's from here. He's not African. So, but he did tell me that. So I was grateful. And I said, I wrote my, I said, oh Lord. She said, you know what? Actually, there's both of them. They said the same thing. You need to start walking. You know, I want you to start walking. They gave me alternatives. And they said they give me 6 months, come back, and then we go from there. So sometimes people are told they just don't want to do it, right? That's the truth. Let's be honest. We're told to do ABC first, then they end up giving us medication.
That's it.
But I hope that all of us will take ownership of our own health and not also wait until we get really in a bad situation like I was like, oh, I didn't know that. So it's okay. Start exercising, 30 minutes walk every day, no carbs, no sugar.
Because carbs turns into sugar.
That's right. They said no carbs, no sugar. They told me that. So I said, wow, okay. I was sad because I love bread. So I had to cut down.
You know, Dominique, going back to the sugar, because Black folks, you know, what we've been taught is go ahead and take this pill. We don't change our diet. That toe gets cut off, then the foot, then the ankle, then the leg. Then we walking around with, you know, no leg, a knee on one side, in a wheelchair, still eating fried food, still eating hog maws and pig's feet. Why do you think that that's kind of been a lot of, not everybody, but a lot of our story? And Black people are dying at alarming rates more than any other ethnic group because of this very thing. Why are we?
Because so when we think about diabetes and hypertension, those things are not hereditary. What's hereditary is our diet and lack of exercise. So if we eat all this soul food all the time and fried chicken and fried fish, all the things that we do on a regular basis, you're going to be like your grandmother and your mother, and it's just going to keep going. But at some point, if we stop and say, okay, they lost their foot, they're going to dialysis. And think about this too. Let's talk about dialysis. Dialysis centers are all over the place, like liquor stores and churches.
That's crazy.
Money to be made off of us being sick instead of being preventative, which I find that now people are more conscious about their health. They're more conscious, like people in the gym, you know, you see older ladies working out and muscles and doing the things. So you don't have to worry about having diabetes. I have a cousin. He was overweight. He was diagnosed with diabetes, and he chose not to let that be his final story. He turned it all the way around. He lost the weight. He no longer has diabetes. It is not hereditary. It's what we eat. It's what our mindset, all the traumas that we've been through. How do people, and I know I'm going left field, but this is something that I'm passionate about. I've been in the healthcare industry for 18 years, and I've worked in every aspect of healthcare. How do people get up and exercise if they're depressed and they're anxious? How are they meal prepping if they're depressed and they're anxious? They're not. What's going to happen is they're going to do takeout food all the time. high in sodium, high in fats, high in sugar, which is going to lead to what? Diabetes, hypertension. I think part of the issue is not addressing people's mental health, truly, not having mental health services available to
Let's go.
period, to address a lot of the traumas that we've been through so that we can take the next step and say, hey, I'm not gonna lay in this bed. Hey,
Yeah.
I'm gonna take the next step to be better. Because even when it comes to mental health issues, they can be addressed by doing things like exercising, what you eat, getting enough sleep, meditating, journaling, different things, and not saying that you don't need anything, going to counseling, talking through stuff. And then it prevents and it gives you some kind of focus so that you can do something different. And we're not prone to these things that they say are hereditary. They're not.
They're not. That right there, what you said, Dominique, that is so poignant, and it was eye-opening to me. Because, you know, when I go to the doctor and I'm checking off the box, checking off, have you had this? And I'll be like, oh, no, thank you, Jesus. You know, I'm almost 50. Oh, you never know. I'll be thanking Jesus. Everything I say, no, I thank Jesus as I'm going down, right? I'm thanking Jesus. Like, whoo. But they ask you about your familial history. So you automatically think that because this ran in your family, this happened to your family, like automatically. And one of the things that Dr. Jones has said when we talk about it on Thursdays is exactly what you said. It's what's passed down is your habits.
Yep.
It's your habits. If grandmama and them was eating pig feet all the time and fried chicken, you're going to do the same. And my girlfriend was saying, well, his daddy had gout. He had gout because they was eating the same kind of food. So that's the reason why it's not necessarily what's hereditary. It's what you put in your mouth that's hereditary. That's what people really need to understand. So don't think just because mama had diabetes and she had to go to dialysis that automatically means you are. We have the choice to change. So Renee, with that being said, have you seen in our community, you know, that kind of that commonality that we're just not educated and we're not going to the doctor and we're just kind of taking what the doctor says and getting overly medicated?
Exactly. I believe that more education and the right questions to ask. For myself, you know, a doctor said, well, we may have to do surgery for whatever this X condition was. And so the next follow-up question was, what are my alternates? So I said, so if I change my diet or if I do this, would that, he said, yes. He said, that would help. He said, if you were to change this and tweak that, you may not have to deal with the surgery. I said, okay, well, thank you. And I left and I changed that and I tweaked that. So it's just asking the right questions and then getting educated on what those things are for you.
Mm-hmm. Ask the questions. That is so extremely important. And that's the thing that I think we don't do because we think, especially older Black people, they liken doctors to God. And that's absolutely not the case. Mm-hmm. So we're going to go to our next video. You see my comment in there, Aisha? Yes, no, maybe so? Let's go to the next video.
Let me see.
Truth about the healthcare system. It's a business. And in some cases, it's more profitable when you're sick. Think about it. Every extra day you're in the hospital, that's another day they can bill for. Every extra test, every procedure, medication, that's more revenue. This is called fee-for-service model. The hospital gets paid for what it does, not for how well you do. This creates a perverse incentive. There's less financial motivation to get you healthy and out the door quickly. There's more motivation to do more, test more, and treat more. It's not to say that doctors and nurses want you to be sick, but they work within a system that is designed around profit and not patient outcomes. This is why we need to move more towards a system that pays for value, not volume. A system that rewards hospitals for keeping you healthy. Make sure you like, subscribe, and follow for more advocacy tips.
All right. All right, ladies, it's amazing, right, what she just said. Focus on advocacy, right? And that's so important. So now, think about this. Advocacy means if you feel uncomfortable going to a doctor and you feel, I probably won't ask the right questions, let somebody go with you. So that way they can remember what you want to get out of that visit. So that way you stay on point when you're seeing the doctor. I remember when I was pregnant and my pregnancy was a high-risk pregnancy. Mm-hmm. And when I went to the doctor's office, again, because they want to push their narrative. I went to a doctor's office, a different doctor many years ago, and they said, well, when we did your ultrasound, we found some abnormalities. So we want to go in and do amniocentesis. And of course, that anything they do extra, they charge you. They're gonna send the bill. And they said, well, think about it, because that's what we think you should do, because it's important for us to check. And I said, well, I don't feel right about it. They said, well, go and think about it and come back. At least they give me that chance to go and think about it and come back. So I called one of my, sisters that I look up to her, and I told her what they told me in the hospital. But I was feeling uncomfortable to argue with the doctor, because I feel he knows everything and he's telling me to do this. So I said, but I don't want to do it. I don't want to do it, because I also understand that it said there's a high risk of losing the pregnancy if you do this. And so I said, please, when we go, no matter what he says, can you please stay on my side so I don't buckle? I don't let him, go ahead with the procedure, because you're there by yourself. Okay, we can do it right now. Let's just clean up and get it done. So I said, please, I don't want to do it. So she went with me, and she sat down with me. And when he was talking to us and say, well, have you decided? I said, well, my sister is here, and I don't think I want to go further with it. And then he went ahead to tell her that, well, just know that if something goes wrong at the end, if you have this baby, there's something wrong, we are not going to be held responsible, because we're making you aware that there's something abnormal about your readings. I said, well, yeah, that's fine. We will stay with what we've decided. If she wasn't there with me, no advocate, I probably would just say, well, okay, you just get scared and say, maybe they're right, just do it. So I said no, and I left. And now my daughter is 13, nothing is wrong with her. And you know what I mean? So I could have gone one way. And I'm not saying when you do the procedure is wrong for some people, but for me, I was scared. And I was glad that an advocate was there to help me stick to my guns.
And that's the thing, you guys. And I heard you say something that I think is very, 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 very important. So Dominique and Renee, she said, she hit it on the head. Advocacy. So you guys are in the healthcare field. What are you telling your friends, families, and loved ones about advocacy? Because I think that's very important, because again, especially when we have these older people, or we have people who don't really know, they think doctors are God. Whatever the doctor says goes. So what happens? So what are you telling your people? And then what should other people be doing? And I'll start with you, Miss Renee.
Well, I've always, for the premise, is to start with safety and self-advocacy. Safety first. So you have to, and that is what the premise is when we are doing as monitors, that we're making sure are supposed to, when we're on the clinics, looking at the data to make sure that whatever's happening, that the patient is safe first. So with self-advocacy, we have to, that all is encompassed of just educating yourself, making sure that you have, your family knows what's going on, and then having a plan. That could be a plan of what the healthcare, what you want your doctors to know, what kind of treatments you need, have that already settled down with your family. So then when you go into the doctor, you feel confident. You're confident and self-assured, and that no matter what the doctor is saying, of course, they went to medical school for 4, 8, 12, whatever, the years. I'm not disrespecting the game of them, what they did. But what I'm saying is that it's a two-way street of dialogue and conversation. It's not one way where the doctor's telling you what to do. And if you have your game plan, have something in a directive, then you can advocate for yourself. And also safety is first.
And I agree with everything you're saying. So I always have conversations with my family and my friends, and I will go to appointments if it's something that they feel, like I just don't know what to say. And I always tell them, doctors are humans just like us. They can make mistakes. They can miss stuff. If it does not feel right, then it's probably not right. One thing that I used to do a few things that I used to do for my patients when I worked in the hospital. So when I worked in the hospital, and at one point I worked in a surgical ICU and a trauma center. So, these are critical situations and people are scared. And so they don't know what to do. And they're just like, okay, whatever the doctor says. So the doctor would explain procedures or what's about to happen. I'll say, do you guys understand? Because I know being in a conversation as a healthcare provider, it was over their head. Do you guys understand what they're saying? I really don't understand. But if I wasn't in the room, they would have just signed the paperwork. So even when I'm not in the room, I would go back in and say, hey, did you guys understand what they were saying? Do you understand the procedure? If they said no, I would explain it to them, but I still would have the doctor come back in and explain it again. In terms of my family and friends, I have conversations with them. I am the go-to person. So when things happen, because I'm the medical person in the family, everybody comes to me and I just ask the questions, or I'll give them questions that they need to ask in order to make sure that they're having a productive conversations. What are the options available? Why are you doing that? Ask those whys, ask those hard questions. And if you have a doctor that is not willing to answer the questions, or they're offended because how dare you ask me? Yes, I'm going to ask you. You need to get another doctor. That's not your doctor, because you should be able to ask questions. You should be comfortable. You should completely understand what's going on, and you should have options. And if you don't, you have to advocate for yourself, because they will do whatever, as you see, that's in the best interest of them and their pockets, not necessarily what's in the best interest for you. So you have to advocate. You have to use your voice. And if you can't do it, tap into somebody that's willing to advocate for you.
Amen. Amen to that. I agree, Dominique, because when you don't have family around you and you're scared, like you say, in a situation where you just sign anything, just do it because you're just desperate. And there's nobody to say, hey, hold on, let's get all the facts first. Let's make sure, let's even get a second opinion if we could. If it's a chance to get a second opinion, why not? Somebody, I think it was Deborah that put in some way a comment in that I want to just address real quick. It's crazy that people don't think about that, is how much they pay for dialysis. And this again comes back to how much they charge you for procedures that probably could have been prevented if things were done and intervention was done earlier on. $55,000 per month. Per month. People are paying out of pocket.
And I noticed how many dialysis centers, like think about back in the day. There were not dialysis centers everywhere. They're everywhere, like every corner. You go down the block. They're
literally
everywhere because of the money that they're making. And you know what dialysis is related to? People not managing their blood pressure. It has wear and tear on your kidneys, and now you need dialysis. And so because this is happening more frequently, people, they're just popping up everywhere. Every time I look up, there's another dialysis center. That should speak volumes to people in terms of your health. I know it can be rough to get up and exercise. I do it. It's overwhelming. You're tired, but that's something that is a necessity. You need to do it. You need to watch what you're eating so that you're not paying that money or taking your time to sit in these dialysis centers unnecessarily.
Amen.
Wow. I would say, in terms of like the dialysis, we got to ring the alarm, y'all, for Black people. Y'all, this does not have to be our story. Let's look at some stats, because I think people need to understand the gravity of what we're doing here. Studies show that Black households are more likely to have medical debt compared to white households. So 27% of us, 17% of them. In 2023, 27% of American adults skipped medical treatment because they could not afford it. Around 4 in 10 adults, 41% report having debt due to medical or dental bills in 2022. 2022, I filed bankruptcy so fast on that shit. Around 4 in 10 adults, about 36% of U.S. households have medical debt in 2024, and 21% had past due medical bills. And think about it again, the supply chain. All this money is going to the same people. It's greed. So people are dying in droves, especially Black people. When you look at everything medical wise, we're always at the top to die first, to have higher this, to have higher that. And we don't have to. So if your mama is on diabetes medicine, I'm not saying take her off. I'm saying talk to her about changing her diet. Talk to her about getting about that house. Talk to her about exercising. Talk to her about drinking more water. Talk to her about eating less fried foods. Like those are things that can really make a huge difference, because what you do now, you're going to pay for it later. One way or another, it's coming to collect. They're coming to collect their money. And what you do is going to determine how much you pay.
Can I in real quick?
And
so I used to do home health, and like I really care for people. right? And it doesn't matter who's watching me. And I would have these conversations, like say, for instance, you have a patient that has congestive heart failure. Of course, you want to decrease your sodium because you don't want to retain water. You're going to end up back in the hospital, all those things. And so I would have conversations with them. Now, these are people that have a long history of congestive heart failure. And I would say, hey, you seem that, have your legs are swelling and, I'm hearing fluid on your lungs. What's going on? What did you eat? Oh, I just had 2 Polishes. I don't add salt to nothing. I said, let's go. Let's go to this kitchen. And I would go in the kitchen and I would show them the sodium intake on the package. They would have no idea. Oh, what did you have for dinner? I had Chinese food. So who's having these conversations? You have all these clinics, you have all these doctors, but because it's like a fast food restaurant, in and out. Nobody is really having these conversations. And sometimes it's not even the provider's fault, because at the end of the day, as a nurse, when I worked in the hospital, it was the worst thing for me. I would leave and dream and feel bad about all the things that I didn't do that had nothing to do with me. You giving me, I'm in a ICU and I'm taking care of 2 critically ill patients. Well, the person that's the sickest is going to get the most attention, and it has nothing to do with me. And I'm feeling horrible because of the way the system is set up. They overwhelm you. They have you taking care of a bunch of people. So yes, we can say, hey, it's their fault. But sometimes it's the system as well, because they don't have the time to explain stuff to you. They don't have the time to have conversations with you. Why? Because they need to get you in and out.
And they have a certain period of time where they can have you sitting up in that seat.
Yep.
And all of it's controlled by who? It's the same people that are controlling it.
Yep.
Same
And
people that control the medication. All the same thing.
Yeah.
And what you're talking about, the system, because like my son was in London, and all the packages and foods, the government will not allow certain foods to be dished out to their people in London. Out here, you can have anything you want.
It's banned in other countries.
Because they know that's their money. It's like a cash cow. They're feeding you all this junk and salt and everything, Twinkies and whatnot. And so you think about it, why in a different country that they understand that and they will not allow that for their people. But out here, they're like fair game, and then you get sick and then they say, here, we got this pill for you.
Because they're not monetizing there in other countries healthcare. A lot of times in other countries, the healthcare is free because it's monetized healthcare. Why would we take this stuff away that makes you sick, that makes us money? They're not going to do it.
You know what? It's Dr. Jones.
So we have to do it.
Dr. Jones, who I talk to every Thursday about this very thing, she said when she went to medical school, she said it wasn't even a class. She said it was probably about a day training about your what you eat. What do you call that? About
nutrition.
Nutrition. A day class. 1 day class. It wasn't even a semester. 1 day class about nutrition. So one of the things that she says is that she was a physician. She's working. She's overweight. She got diabetes, and she's just thinking that's part because they don't learn. Everybody else is overweight. All the other doctors is overweight. They're doing the same thing. She's taking medication, and she realized this ain't right. And so she just took all of that out and she started eating better. She became a vegan, and everything changed. Her blood sugar, her diabetes went away. She lost 30, 40, 50 pounds, I think, maybe even more. But it was all that. And so you got to think about, you're talking to people and you're dealing with people. Somebody said that they try to figure it out. Doctors are practicing. They don't know everything.
Right.
And if they only had a 1 day nutrition class when they went to medical school, it lets you know that they don't know the fuck that they talking about and what we should be doing to heal ourselves. It's crazy.
And when you're under stress, like when, I was working a lot and all that stuff, you're not thinking, you want to comfort food. You want to feel good. You want that dopamine, right? That hit, and so that's another thing we have to, figure out for ourselves that, we understand that we're trying to comfort ourselves, but at the same time, we have to be more healthy. And when you say vegan diets or whatnot, that's fine. But then we have to, when people are under a lot of stress, particularly going into corporate, working for corporate, you're trying to soothe yourself.
Right. That's true. We're going to take a look at this other video and talk about it.
healthcare. Healthcare is sick care. They're there to take care of the sick. I'm not talking about the hospital workers. I'm talking about the medical system in America. I'm talking about big pharma. I'm talking about those people that are trying to keep sick people sick. No cure should come with a side effect. No cure should come with a side effect. Everybody that thinks they're cured has went through a million side effects that last their entire lifetime afterwards. That doesn't sound like help. You feel better at the time, but you're left with a million side effects to the day you die. I said what I said. If this video gets taken down, I really could give a fuck. I really don't care. I don't think people understand this. People are not thinking about this enough for me. This is a big scam. Being in America is a scam, and one of the biggest scams is the healthcare system. No cure should come with a million side effects. I'm going to keep saying that. We were given everything since the beginning of time. I've told y'all that multiple times. We were given every tool, everything we need, from healthcare to food to everything since the beginning of time. But now we have to pay for it. Now we have to take whatever they give us, because so many of the traditions, so many of the method, so many of the holistic remedies, all those things were lost over time. Not in my household. Not in my household. Mostly all of my people lived to be 80, 90, and 100. We did nothing but herbal remedies, and going to the doctor was the last resort for any like surgeries and stuff. That's how my family is. That's how I grew up. But I say all this to say this. Wake up.
No cure should come with a side effect. Renee, what do you thought?
Absolutely, no cure. So there was a doctor a while ago that she treats diabetes and so forth at her hospital when she was doing it. And now she lives somewhere in, I don't know, Belize or somewhere, because she was kicked out of the system and labeled as a terrorist. So there are also other conversations that we have here in this government, this America, that it's they push, and if you talk, then you are going to get pushed out of the system, and they clamp down on a lot of things. So definitely I believe in plant-based, having vegetables, and particularly growing it in your garden and eating from the roots is very important, that nutrition and healthy nutrition. So definitely.
Anonymous said prevention is better than the cure. Being proactive is better than being reactive. That's in every aspect of our lives, right? Brush your teeth, eat your fruits, drink your water, and work out, and you'll be okay. That's all I gotta say. But that is the truth. What are your thoughts? Do you know what a blue zone is, Dominique?
No, I'm not sure.
You know what a blue zone is, Aisha? Tell her what a blue zone is.
From what I understand, the blue zone is the area where people they live in an elevated area, but their diet and exercise, it's very simple and very holistic. They don't eat things that are processed. They spend time with each other, friendship, relationships, really a holistic way of living. So you don't feel stress, angst, anxious, busy. The blue zone allows you to have this life where you live is clean, the air is clean, you plant your own garden, you have your friends around you, and you just really try to live from the land. And
these people are living long lives.
100 years old, yeah. They live over 100 years, yeah.
And you think about people who live in the inner cities, people who are in, what do you call those areas? What do you call those areas when they don't have no grocery stores? What do you call it? What's the word I'm looking for, y'all?
Rural areas? Is that what
No. I know y'all know what I'm talking about.
Rural areas?
Huh?
Rural areas?
No, it's the inner cities where they don't have something's on. Yeah, let me see. Somebody's the desert, food desert.
For the desert, okay.
The food, when you have, thank you guys. For in food deserts, you notice in the areas where there's food deserts, think about this. These kids are going to school. They go and buy the liquor store. They getting hot Cheetos for breakfast, and they are getting grape sodas, and they're not being exposed to the fruits and vegetables. And then they end up being overweight, obese, having health problems. It starts at a very young age. And if you notice in these places where you have these food deserts, the amount of death and diabetes and hypertension and health issues, they skyrocket.
Mm-hmm.
That is by design, ladies and gentlemen. But again, all this can be prevented. Even if you live in a food desert, there's ways to get around that. You don't have to eat that way. You can plant your own garden. You could get a little box garden. There's things that you could do to kind of, eat whole foods, like Renee said. You can take control of your own diet, just like Anonymous said. Be proactive and not reactive. We got to get out of that. But Dominique, what do you think the idea of no medicine, no medication should be, there should be no side effects in the cure, whatever she said. I think that was a brilliant way to put it.
I agree with that. So you got to, again, this is a business. So if I give you a pill to treat this, you're going to probably have X, Y, and Z symptoms, right? So then I got another pill to cure that. And then you probably, that pill is going to cause these symptoms. So then I'm giving you another pill. Before you know it, you have 15 pills. Again, it's a business. Why, if you're treating something, why should you have all these side effects? You shouldn't. But if you're trying to keep yourself in business, I'm trying to stay in business. So I need people to buy houses, right? And so you just keep doing this stuff over and over and over again. And it doesn't matter. It's just like cancer treatments. You're going to almost die before you get better. And they're going to charge you an arm, a leg, your house, your firstborn child for that treatment. Why should you have side effects when something is supposed to be curing something? It doesn't make sense. And I think that we have to go back to holistic living. Like I've said it before on this show. I want to farm. I want to create my world. I want to have a compound where my family and friends come together. We're growing our own food. We're taking care of our own animals, so we know what we're eating. I had a garden at home. I grew cucumbers and tomatoes. Totally different from what you have in the store. You get cucumbers in the store, it's wax all over it. What's all that on it? It's to preserve it and keep it, right? When I grew it in my garden, I didn't have any of that. And so I'm very conscious about making
Look at how plump our chickens are.
Yes. Why are they so big?
Why are they so big?
Let's talk about this. Why
they so big?
When we were younger, we didn't have obesity. Kids weren't obese like that. Children are obese. Why? Because they're putting steroids and hormones and all this stuff that our kids are taking in. Another thing, why can you go and buy food that's not good for you with your link card or your food stamps or whatever it's called in your area? Why? You can go, the kids go to the store and they're getting chips and donuts and candy. Why is that possible? Because again, we're not, this is not healthcare. It's
part
sick
of
care.
powers that be. They trying to kill y'all, whether it's a food desert, whether it's the way that, because there's definitely medical bias too. And I want you guys to speak to that as well, you guys. You know, there is medical bias. The way, you know, there was well, I forget what that was, but I guess there was something by which they measured, was it colonoscopy or something? But anyway, they had a different measure for Black people. So Black people were getting diagnosed a lot later than everybody else. And so they were dying a lot more. And they just fixed that within the last couple of years. So then they think that Black pain tolerance is a lot higher than white people. So then we go to the doctor and they say, oh, you could handle it. Or you have a Black male, a 60-year-old Black male, and a 60-year-old white male. They go to the doctor for the exact same symptoms. And guess what? They get treated exactly the same way. They're going to get that Black man a Tylenol or an aspirin and tell him to take his ass home. And they're going to run all the tests on the white man. It's just a fact. It's what it is. And so have you guys had an experience, especially you two in the medical field, with seeing that firsthand, Dominique?
Yes. So when you just said that, so you'll have somebody that's African-American, and I've worked in areas where, you know, it was an impoverished area. When I worked in the surgical ICU, we're talking about people coming in with gunshot wounds because of the area that we live in. So if you have this other person that comes in there and they're saying, I'm having pain, you know, my stomach is hurting real bad. On a scale of 0 to 10, what's your pain? It's a 10. I'm going to give you the high drug. I'm going to give you, you know, the Norco. I'm going to give you, you know, I'm going to give you fentanyl, whatever it is that you need, right? But then if a Black person says it, oh, it's nothing wrong with them. They're just drug seeking.
Yeah, they think you on drugs. Yeah.
What's the difference between his pain and his pain? They had the same injury. Why? Because he's Black. So you're just going to assume that he's drug seeking and we're not going to treat him. And now you can tell if somebody's in pain, not just based on what they say, but their vital signs. If your blood pressure is elevated, you know, you're grimacing and you're moving around and you're sweating. He's in pain. And who are you to tell him he's not in pain? And so I'll come across that. Like, don't tell them if they are drug seeking. They had a traumatic experience. They're laying in the ICU. Treat them like you would treat somebody else. That's it.
That part. That's it. That's all. Renee, what have you had experience with medical bias? And this, and by the way, Dominique, these ladies are in the medical field, so they know firsthand.
Mm-hmm.
I have to disagree with Dominique. That's it. That's all. She said it, everything. Just basically, when you walk into the door, the first thing they see is this, and then tabulations in their mind. They've already preconceived what they're going to do and what they say.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and that's just with people in general. They don't get to know who we are as a person is from the news or whatever. They just automatically assume these different things, and that's how they treat us. And that has to do with a lot of racism.
But it's being exposed now because you're
medical
seeing
racism
stories, you know, like the lady that had her baby in a car. I don't know if you guys seen that. This stuff is being exposed and they're being held accountable for this stuff. And so exposure is so important, not being silent and being just acting like, oh, I don't want to ruffle any feathers. Yes, you do.
Absolutely.
Because at the end of the day, they're going to mistreat you and still going to charge you. You still going to get a bill in the mail for them to mistreat you. Hold them accountable. Speak up, because even if it's not for you, it could be for somebody that's coming behind you. And so now these things are being exposed. People are speaking up. Doctors are not gods. They're doctors. They're human beings like you and me. Speak up and say something to them. And it's okay. And if they don't align and they don't want to hear you and they're too arrogant because they're the doctor, move on to somebody that wants to hear you.
I love that. I love your passion about this, Dominique. I love your passion, girl. Good shit.
Just like
100% right. You are 100% right. I'm sorry, Renee, what were you saying?
I'm sorry. The case that with the case of the 500 women at the Virginia hospital that went through those treatments, the medical treatments, and uteruses are falling out and taken away, and all 500 just a year ago. I mean, we are still dealing with racism, medical biasm. It's just it's atrocious. And when I heard about that case, it took the wind out of me. You know, I say I'm a clinical researcher, and then I'm like,
what happened?
This is still happening?
Wait, what happened? I don't know about that case. What happened?
So basically, 500 Black women at the Virginia hospital, they were going through different medical treatments, like hysterectomies and whatnot, that the doctors were saying that they needed. And turned out that their uteruses and things like that were being taken without them knowing. So, and they were under a clinical trial. They didn't approve, and they didn't know. They signed the informed consent, but they didn't know what was happening. And that's just happened, a year ago, Dominique, that we were on the show about? Yeah, so.
And people are, when we're talking about informed consent, and I've seen it happen, that's why I asked the questions. Do you know what is happening? Because the doctors will put the information on there. You know, they'll write it out on there. First of all, the doctor's handwriting is chicken scratch. So you don't even know what's on there, even if you read it. Right. But you don't even know, you're just signing. And they don't even know what they're signing. They're literally I've watched it. They're just signing it. You trust this human being.
Yeah, because they think that they're looking out for their best interest.
And so you thinking that you're having this one procedure and you sign for it. So that protects the doctor in the hospital, when in all actuality, that form actually said that you're getting X, Y, and Z done. But you signed the form.
You know, we have been experiments, Black people, in every single way imaginable since the inception of this country. You know, there's a Harriet, what's her name?
Lacks.
Who?
Harriet Lacks.
Not Henrietta Lacks, but Harriet, what's her name? The medical apartheid, the author of the medical apartheid. She talks about Henrietta Lacks. She talks about the Tuskegee experiment and all these different things that they've done. You have the Mississippi appendectomy, where Black women were sterilized. They go in for a small procedure. Fannie Lou Hamer went in for a small procedure, came out. The Rell sisters, 12 and 14-year-old girls that went in, they had, their mom couldn't read or write. She had to sign it with an X. She signed the form, and they came out sterilized. They did this to Black people all over. California was sterilizing women without them knowing up until the 2000s. This is now. This is not just the past. This is what they're doing. So it is imperative that we are asking the questions. When you talk about, Dominique, they're signing that consent form and we're just trusting people because we just thinking that they're looking out for our best interest, and they don't. It's almost like you got to have a fucking lawyer just to overlook the things so that you can understand, because they're not looking out for your best interest. So Aisha, we're going to do our final thoughts, but how can we advocate for ourselves to make sure that we don't fall victim?
So difficult in a capitalist country, right, where everything is about profit, 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 profit. But I think that advocacy, I believe in advocacy is so important. But more importantly, I hope that we can have representation as well. Like if we have doctors, hopefully there's an African American doctor in the hospital. If there's one, I'll request that that person sees me, because we have different symptoms for the same illness that other people have. If I can have representation, I will seek a Black doctor if that's possible first, because I know there's a difference in the way they treat you and the way they care about how you're feeling. But more importantly, I will make sure I have somebody advocate for me if I'm scared of, I'm unsure. Do the back work before I come into the hospital. Bring somebody with me to advocate for me, to help me make sure that what I want is what I get from that doctor. And again, speak up, like both ladies say. Speak up. If you don't think you're getting what you need, say something, so that way they will listen to you. Because if you don't, then you just get passed up quickly. Next. We don't want that. And hopefully with just baby steps, and also take care of ourselves, because we are the first advocate of our own selves. Eat well, sleep well, exercise like I was taught to do, and I did it, so that we don't have to get those diseases or illnesses, and we have to go now and deal with people that sometimes don't care about us. Not all of them, but sometimes some of them don't care about us. They just want to, because they see our color, they just want to move on to the next person. We can avoid that. Where can you find me? In the Black Business School. I am one of the coaches there, and also AishaVerzi.com. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Aisha. Miss Renee, how can we advocate for ourselves to avoid things like this happening to us?
I believe that we should have a clear plan in place, some type of written instructions. Always talk with your family to keep them inclusive of what's going on when you're going to the doctors, or always have someone with you as an advocate to speak with you, with your doctor. And communication, having clear communication, that's really vital for making sure that they get what they want and what they need. So my name is Renee Williams. I have right now, if you go to trysyncosync.com, that's an AI-powered, it optimizes your cycle, menopause, and it gives for people who are maternal health equity. So when you go there, you'll see that you can generate plans, you can generate birth plans for yourself. You can look at any type of thing if you have symptoms with preeclampsia. All of these things you're able to see, and it will give you a nice report, and you can take it to your doctor. So check it out, and if it doesn't resonate with you, let someone else know. Let the community know that there's something out there that we are advocating for your safety and for yourself.
Good job. I like that. Thank you. Excellent, Renee. Dominique, final thoughts, darling.
So one thing I want to tell people is to trust your instincts. If it does not feel right, it probably is not right. You know you better than anybody else. Doctors are humans. You got to advocate for yourself. You have to speak up, and you have to say something. And if you can't do it, reach out to somebody else that is willing to advocate for you. If you want to find me, you can find me on all social media platforms at the Whitmore Group. And you can go to our website at thewhitmoregroup.com. We can help you find and purchase homes anywhere throughout the United States.
Beautiful. I'll just say this. It is a statistical fact that Black people who go to Black physicians live longer. And I know it's extremely hard in different places to find that. Unfortunately, when I was growing up, I never had a Black doctor until I moved to the DMV. I mean, it's just unfortunate. There are some, but you got to search for them. So I would say be proactive in finding you a Black doctor first. Number two, I would say advocate for yourself. And just like Dominique said, bring somebody with you to the doctor. I go to the doctor with my dad. They told my dad had prostate cancer. They was like, yeah, you ain't really need to we getting rid of all the cancer. Ain't gonna be no cancer in his body. No, we gonna know. So what we doing? That's what I did. So I don't care what you're talking about. We getting rid of it. So you're not finna tell my daddy to keep this, And so my dad was like, whatever my baby say, that's right. So have somebody advocate for you, because again, especially with seniors, They believe that the doctor is equivalent to Jesus, and they will do anything that the doctor says. So if they got high blood pressure, they just gonna take that blood pressure pill. If they got diabetes, they gonna take whatever that diabetes medication is. They're not going to do anything. They're not going to tell them how to change their diet. So make sure that we're informed. I think that this is the best time, even though we have all of this evil, what capitalism and greed, we have all this evil. This is the best time in the world to be alive because we have the power of the internet. They done fucked around and gave us AI too. So we have information at our fingertips, right? So we can look up all this stuff. We're no longer blinded, that we on the internet all day. You can find out this information. In fact, doctors hate medical MD, WebMD, because now people think that they doctors now. Good, because now you go in there informed, and just like Dominique say, you questioning them and they get mad. Find somebody else, because you can do that too. So make sure that these people are really caring for you. If they are caring for you, make sure that they are caring for you. You have choices and you also have rights. Do not let these people kill you early. So I'm passionate about it too, but I ain't as passionate about Dominique as Dominique, man. Y'all all brought it today, ladies. This was really, really good information. And I absolutely learned a lot more. You know, it's good to have these conversations, even if they're a repetition, even if you heard a little bit of something before. Having these conversations over and over and over again are paramount to not just us, but to our communities. Black people, we want to live long, we want to live strong. And so we need to know this stuff so that we can live better, live longer, live more optimal. Okay. So this is Black History Month, you guys. This is Black History Month. And I want to talk about technology because, like I said, we have the access. We have the power of the internet. They done fucked around and gave us AI. Plus, we got more power in the palm of our hands than they had when they put the man on the moon. So everything has changed. Everything is evolving. But listen, there was a Black woman named Mary Van Brittan Brown. She was a Black nurse, kind of like Dominique, but she lived in Queens, New York. She invented the first home security system. Long before the Ring cameras, smart doorbells, the remote monitoring, she created a system with motorized camera, a monitor, a two-way microphone, an emergency button that contacts police. This is a Black woman that invented the first home security system. So you guys put it in the comments, drop a Black fist in the comments, and you guys acknowledge Marie Van Brittan Brown. Put in the comments, Marie Van Brittan Brown, a sister. She is the one that's making sure that our homes are safe and secure today, y'all. And I like what Armando said, grow our own food. That's also, watch what we put in our mouth, obviously, but growing our own food is going to be the game changer for us. You ain't got to live in a rural area. Even if you are in a food desert, we can do that as well. So that's something that we can be proactive about, like Anonymous said, instead of being reactive. I will say this, healthcare is personal, but it also is a business. People need to understand how money moves through the system. Supply chain all goes to the same people. They're not looking out for your best interest. And how medical costs can affect long-term stability and how to protect themselves. The goal is not fear. The goal is what? Awareness and better decision making. Y'all, this was a great conversation. It was fruitful. Hopefully this saves and changes lives as we move forward in our community, because this is Fly Nubian Money. We're talking about wealth. We're talking about money, but our health is our wealth. If we ain't got good health, then we cannot have good wealth. I enjoyed you guys. We'll see you tomorrow. Same bat time, same bat channel. Peace.